Welcome back, guys, to the Crazy Mayday channel. This is part, I think, 5, maybe 6. I think it's 5. So in the previous video, we got done with our 72-inch mower deck. We did the spindles, we painted it, we needle scaled it, we did bearings, we did a lot of just TLC upgrades. Well, in the last video, I told you that the next video we're going to work on is our hydros. Well, to my mistake, I should have waited before we put the mower deck in. You guys maybe already known that, saw my mistake already coming. So to basically get these hydros completely out of the mower, right, we're going to do a reseal on these things. So it's not like I'm just changing the fluid and, you know, basically draining that cartridge filter out and just putting it back in. We got a lot of leaks all over the place, so I bought the overhaul kit for each one of these mowers. Basically, number 1 mower, number 2 mower for both wheels, right? So now I got to take 2 steps back. I got to get the mower deck loosened back up. I got my dollies out, so we're going to roll it forward. Those trailing arms that we put the pins in, I'm just going to take the rear bolt out, leave those pins in there, and we're going to just roll the deck forward on the dollies, get it so I have enough clearance to kind of work those hydros out. You got to be very careful. There's a cooling fan on the top, and then basically they kind of got to come out, you know, the hole that's in the frame. So we're going to video all that, so you'll see that. But just wanted to say, number 5, you know, part 5 video is not turning out to be so good already. Got to take a couple steps back, but let's get into it. I'm working on a little bit of, you know, limited daylight here, so I'm going to get us underneath. We're going to crack these filters loose so we can take a look at firsthand what the fluid looks like. Hopefully they're not metal up, you know, full of metal and just, you know, worn the hell out. That's just what I'm hoping. That is not the case. We got them to drive. This particular one was leaking pretty bad, so it was low on fluid. We knew that, and we knew going into it we would have to do a reseal. So let's get under here. Let's crack these fittings loose. Let's see what the fluid looks like. All right, guys, we're underneath the mower now. Let's get this baby cracked open and see what the heck we got in here. Oh God, it's tight. Wow. Ah. Okay. Holy smokes. All right. I'm gonna have to put a little more leverage on this bad boy. Oh, dang. This baby was put on Guten tight. All right, so we're gonna see firsthand what the fluid looks like. Hopefully it's just, you know, normal. Yeah. So that's a good sign, guys. It's coming out pretty good in gold. So that's nice. I like to see that. We got to get our little pick so we can get our filter out of there. You know, I do believe these mowers were serviced pretty well. It's just, you know, they got to a certain point, and then I think the, you know, organization just stopped caring, really. You know what I mean? It basically came down to that. And then they just became, you know, out in the good old back 40, sitting there as parts machines. Let me get a little pick for that so that can come out of there a little bit better. All right, let's get the pick in there. I can't see. Hopefully you guys can. There we go. Oh, that just broke off. There we go. Oh, God. Nothing's easy, fellas. All right, so that's really good. Like that, actually seeing that fluid, that nice golden yellow color, you know, that makes me feel happy because, you know, it shows me that the guys were doing the fluid changes. So there's our filter. I'm sure the guys have seen this a bunch of different times. It says Stens on the back, so we know they were changing it. According to what I've heard, each one of these hydro sides, basically this left side and then the right side, take 5 quarts of oil per unit, right? So you got 10 quarts just in a service, basically, when you do your servicing. So a lot of oil, but these things are a very good pump. They do a phenomenal job of being durable and just reliable. So that's what we're going to go for, getting these things resealed back up and making them go another 1,000 or so hours. All right, guys, we're back. I drained my bucket here. Let's do the other side now. This side I got to go up, not down. All right. Let's try to get this guy to get on there. There we go. All right, let's see how tight this sucker is. Holy smokes. Another one that was ugga-dugga on. Ah. Guys, I don't believe you have to crank these things on that tight. It's just an aluminum cap with an O-ring. I mean, that was a little excessive in my opinion. You know, you could split the case. These things ain't cheap. All right, there's our cap. Again, our fluid looks really good. That nice golden honey color. Exactly what we want to see. This side was leaking a little bit more. So maybe not all the fluid that came out on the first one. Yeah, we're getting a little more flow. Filter's nice and golden. Gonna let that drip drain for a little bit. Take our cap out of there and put that on here. Get our filter on there to drain. Yeah, definitely a little less fluid coming out of this one. This one was leaking the most. I haven't looked or watched any videos on how to remove these out of a Scag Cheetah. So just looking under here, I know you guys can't see too much, but up under here, I have a big spring that's basically the tension for our hydro pumps themselves. So I'm gonna release the tension off of that. There's a belt up there, obviously. And then I have some linkages that I have to get off. And basically the hoses that feed from the reservoir can come undone. That's up top. I'm just looking to see what else we got going on. The parking brake linkage as well. And then it's going to be our big 4 bolts on the outside of the frame that bolt these in. We'll remove those probably last. And then I think once we move that deck forward, we'll be able to kind of work these things outward that way. It sucks that I put the deck back on again. You know, you live and learn, I guess, with this stuff. But so yeah, once we get that pretty much drained out, then I can start on doing the spring, the belt, the hoses, and then the linkages, and then we should be able to unbolt the 4 bolts and get this thing hossed up out of there. So I'm gonna get these bolts undone so I can roll the deck forward. That's the first thing. So all right, that's pretty much well good and drained. I mean, that's all I would say, guys. Like right there, that's plenty. You know what I mean? I don't think you really had to put 200 foot-pounds on these things, but what do I know, I guess? I don't know. So, okay. Now, I'll bring you guys back as soon as we're getting ready to start removing all of our stuff under here and getting our deck rolled forward. So, hang in there. We're getting it. All right, guys, we're back out here working on the hydros. I did a little bit off of camera because it's just a little dirt and grimy, and I was going back and forth from the garage to the outside here, just trying to get all the little tools I need. So I'm gonna spin you around. What we found is bad, man. This thing was leaking for a long time. The amount of dirt and just sand and buildup and oily grease. I even found somebody's old headphones that got tangled up in the fan. I'm gonna show you that right here. So this was wrapped around the shaft. It basically got caught in the fan here. And these was what was left of the wires. Basically was over top of that, like that. So that thing's spinning at 1,000 miles a minute. That sucked it in because I guess this guy's thing fell in and it got caught into the fan and it drove it right in. But so that's that. But if you look in here, I mean, all this extra black stuff, like we power washed real good too. And I mean, it is just annihilated, man. Like this thing was leaking for a minute. So yeah, that ain't no good, right? I mean, the seal kit was, I don't know, maybe 60 bucks roughly. I don't even remember really, to be honest, but still, like, you know, like, let's pull this thing in the shop and friggin' get it taken care of, because it just kept pouring oil in it, you know? So under here, basically you can see all that dirt and just heavy like grit that's been built up, you know, all that in there. I mean, the arms are just loaded up, you know. It's just, it's a shame, because it's like, you know, they must have known it was leaking and just keep adding fluid. It's easier. They ain't got time for that. You know. So going over here to this one, I mean, this one's not too bad. So, you know, this one was definitely the bad one out of the bunch. So once this comes out, I'm definitely gonna spray this up, this area again, hit it with the garden hose, you know, wash this out real nice, get it clean, put it back, you know, like factory. So let's spin around here. Oh, I'm laying down. So just wanted to update you guys on that. Like I said in the last clip, I regret putting on the mower deck, because now that was kind of in my way, right? So I already released it again from the chains and those L brackets, and we pushed it basically forward so we could get a little bit more clearance to get that hydro out. So the way I'm thinking, I got the bolts already loose. You got one up top holding it in and the one down low right there holding it in. So once I release those two, my plan is to kind of push it out the hole, get it forward, and then drop it, you know, down and out. Hopefully that works. And then I'm gonna have to degrease this thing before I start really tearing into it. It's just annihilated. It still needs a good degreasing and a power washing, or just a garden hose, really. Let the degreaser work and eat away at some of that sand and grit, just to clean it up. So taking the fan cover off was a little bit of a challenge too. You need some long, intricate, sorry, I'm like at first grade again, tools to get down into the like tight areas where those little 7/16 bolts are. It was nice without the fuel tanks, I'm going to say that. Now, not all scenarios are going to be that way. You know, we took the fuel tank off just to basically clean it out. So I did not have them in my way, so that would have been another challenge for somebody. But anyway, enough rambling. Let's set up here and let's see if we can't get this hydro out, at least tonight, this one. And then we'll throw it in on the bench and we'll start to break it down and reseal this baby up. So, all right guys, so I did a little YouTubing the other night just to kind of see what it would take to get the hydros out on a Cheetah, a Scag Cheetah. I couldn't really find any videos that actually showed like taking the wheel off, taking the tank out of your way, removing the deck, pulling this out like completely from the frame of the machine. So I don't know if I'm one of the first ones to do it, like maybe on video. I've seen plenty of videos where they're breaking these hydro gear motors down, but not like, and then changing the fluid and all that. There's plenty of them, but actually like doing the work of taking this thing out of the machine and then, you know, throwing it on a bench, couldn't really find one on YouTube, at least. So I'm not saying I'm like one of the first ones to do it, but you know, at least maybe videoing it, you know, in the current, you know, time frame of 2020, you know, 6. But just figured I'd let you guys know that. I don't know how many guys are doing this amount of work when they're getting involved in their machine. I guess most guys would probably, I don't know, sub this out to the landscaper's like maintenance guy, or they take it back to the dealer and let the dealer do it. You know what I mean? I don't know. All right, so that one's loose. This thing's pretty much ready to go. We did have to take our hose off too. That was another one that I removed, and we had to drain down the system yesterday, so there wasn't really too much oil coming out of the hose. And with the way this thing was leaking, it didn't have much oil in it. So, all right, let's see if we can't get this thing in. I'll try to get you guys focused in on where this thing's gonna pop out. All right. Look at that. More chocolate pudding. Jeez. I mean, that's just total ignorance of just screw it, I'm not doing it. I mean, it only took me, I'm gonna take my gloves off. I mean, it only took me, what, an hour? And I'm, you know, working outside, not even in a shop. So, like, I mean, to not even want to try to fix it doesn't really go too good with, I don't know, the maintenance of this poor thing, but it's getting maintenance now, I can tell you that, guys. So let's spin the gear around. I'll show you all this wonderful just build up. All right, so all this crap, man, it's just like, you know, this thing made this poor thing run hot. You know what I mean? It's all clumped up around that, and then this fan is trying to blow down to cool this whole unit. You know what I mean? Like, with all that heavy, oily, caked up sand and dirt, the poor thing ain't friggin', it ain't cooling, you know what I mean? So, no wonder the seals probably went bad, just because it got hot, and they got friggin' hot, and then they just probably got too brittle and started leaking, and that's basically probably what happened in a nutshell, really, guys. So, anyway, all right, so I'm gonna hold off on the video here. I'm gonna get this thing cleaned up, and then basically I'll throw it in on the bench in there. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Crazy Mayday channel. We're out here in the garage now. I got the hydro gear wheel motor / pump all degreased down, cleaned up. All that heavy like dirt and grit that was on there is gone. I'll give you a quick look at this thing. So we just had tons of stuff just built up laying in here like a pile, right? The cooling fan goes right here, sits on top of that. But when this thing got all that crud and just muck built up on there from it just leaking everywhere, that cooling fan was limited basically on how well it could cool the whole unit. Obviously, if you put on a coat in the summertime and plan on running, you ain't gonna last too long. So I think, just my opinion, I don't know how long this thing's been leaking, but it probably got a little hot with all that extra dirt and grime and all that sand and everything else, and more oil leaking. So that made the seals kind of swell up even more, allowed the more dirt to get in, and basically just you know, just deteriorated everything, really. I mean, so anyway, that's that. We're just gonna get on this thing. I'm just gonna basically tear it down. I am gonna split it. I really was on the fence of not splitting it, but I think I'm gonna have, I should have did it while I had it out moment come up, and I don't want that. You know what I mean? I don't want this thing to start weeping, especially knowing that it's been running a little extra warm. I don't want to have that instance where I see that slow little drip coming out of the center, you know what I mean, where the two halves are silicone together. So we have the Hydro Gear OEM reseal kit. Now this does pretty much everything soup to nuts. There is another big seal in here, this big guy right here. That goes on inside the actual pump. Let's get our O-rings off of here. Be careful using a sharp tool with this, because this aluminum will scar. So yeah, that O-ring basically just, it broke. So that little guy right there, no good. You can tell it's it's brittle, like it's been hot, you know what I mean? So it goes to show you, if you guys keep your machines clean, they'll help you out with maintenance. I'm gonna get some of my good Terrell Fixes All gel lube. So if you guys want some of this stuff, his online store sells it. He ships it out pretty good, pretty quickly. So he recommends this on a lot of stuff. Engine rebuilds, any kind of seals. This stuff stays, you know, nice and fluidy. So like this rod here, this aluminum rod, I'll just spray a little bit on this, and it's good for that startup, right, where there's not much oil in the thing just yet and you need that little bit of lubricity. This is where it's going to help you. So let's put the seal in, and then we'll continue on with putting that back in and the rest of this thing. Now those little bushings, basically, I could tell that they had much more friction going in. So holding pressure is key to these things. Basically, when they get hot, that rubber gets brittle, and then basically you lose your pressure, and that's going to affect your wheel speed. The pump's going to get cavitation a lot more, so you don't want none of that. But all right, guys, I'm checking my battery level here. I'm going to take a pause with the video. We will pick it back up. It is getting kind of late. We will continue with the teardown of our ZT 5400 Hydro Gear transmissions. So stay tuned. I'll be right back once we can get this battery charged, and we'll keep tearing into this thing. I'm going to get it ready to be split, and we'll hopefully be ready to put this back in, and that'll be one more step closer to getting that zero turn up to its permanent location. Woo! Got it! Too easy. That thing was leaking bad. All right, guys, so I was really contemplating on not pulling the two halves apart, right? I kind of wanted just to get to the seals, replace the seals, and basically back in the machine. Well, the best of me said, I'm probably not going to want to do that, because even though it sounds easy, if we get it to our farmhouse in PA, and then this thing starts leaking, not from, let's say, the seals that I replaced, but the two halves where they come sandwiched together, you know, I would be like, what the hell? You know, I had it right then and there. I should have just took an extra 10, 20, even an hour too, whatever, you know, and did it, because then it would have been back down here. The deck's got to come off. You got to drain all the oil. You know, you would have just been like, I was right there. Why didn't I do it? So that's one of the key points, guys. If you feel like you just that little tiny voice in the back of your head saying, just go ahead and do it, you're going to thank yourself later. So just pulled that apart. As you could see, the flange that holds the wheel on, that's definitely a little tough to break that off the taper. You could probably use a little heat and it probably would have helped, but I don't like to put too much heat on things. So a good little puller. We whacked that with the hammer. We got that off. There is the seal that goes right there, which, you know, that probably would have been a little challenging to get out if I didn't split the halves. Now it shouldn't be too bad. We can just pound it from the outside, or no, from the inside out, and then we'll put the new one in, so that'll be good. Okay. Inside here, we got a magnet, and it ain't looking good. The magnet's got a little bit of metal on it, but we got some chunks in here, guys, and that's not good. Not good at all. When you have hard parts that are broken, that's when the dollar signs start to, and we don't want that. So let's see what the hell we got going on. I'm going to show you what I'm looking at here, so let's take a look together. I didn't touch this at all, so you and I are seeing it firsthand. All right, trying to get this camera all situated and get it to work. All right, zoom down. So what I'm talking about is right, where's my pick? All right, so what I'm talking about is right here. This is the magnet. This thing is a magnet. Right here and right there are two metal chunks of something. So you see that piece? And then there's a bigger piece behind it. I know this camera's not focusing too well. Sorry guys, but right there, I'm gonna get them out and I'll lay them down here on the white piece of paper so we can see together. All right, and we're still actually quite a bit of fluid in here too, so just when you thought you got it all out, you didn't. All right, so this is some kind of teeth. I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe to a parking brake or something, but this is a big chunk here, so that's not good. This might be a common failed part inside here, I don't know, but that's a pretty big chunk of metal, guys. Not good. So right then and there, that makes me, you know, happy but not happy, right? Glad we tore it down to find that, because you would have never known it was messed up until maybe one of those things got loose and it got into your ring gear. So let's put the gloves back on and pull this down a little bit more. I really wish I had a bigger table to spread these parts out, because it is a little bit of a pain in the neck trying to work in this tight little spot. But let's get the gloves back on and let's see if we can find exactly what the hell failed. You know, Hydro Gear is a pretty good company, so if you do need a hard part with inside this case, I'm sure you could get, you know, a little bit more of a breakdown of some of these hard parts in here. I didn't really thoroughly look at the exploded view enough to see if it shows a hard part list. I think it does have that in there, so once we find it, we'll hopefully get that part. So here's just our tube, our feed tube from the pump. I'm gonna get you guys up here high so we can all see together. Okay. Just giving a quick visual to the parts here. I want to keep them in the same orientation. And I'm just looking at the teeth and the gears. The bearing looks good. That looks good. Okay, I think I see this. It's part of the... Yeah, okay. So... that probably makes sense now why it was actually... why it was spinning the way it was. Okay. So it looks like it's definitely right here. Our parking brake pawl is busted. So pretty, I guess, good that it's that and not one of these big gears, right? So let me see if I can get this off. I need to elevate this side of the case a little bit to take the pressure off. This thing's hard to get stable. It's got so many funky little things. All right, so let me get this up this way. There we go. All right. Nope. Need it higher. All right, well, we can see together here. All right, so see how that broke out there like that? Sorry guys, I know I'm taking all the... All right, so this shaft, so there's another piece to it. Trying to put this thing together in the way that it basically came apart. Yeah, that's definitely busted. All right, so we got some pieces there. I'm gonna keep this oriented just the way it's supposed to be. All right, you can't pull that out that way because there's a nut on the opposite side. I'm just trying to do a good visual, guys, on here. All right, so for video reference, the smoother polished side faces up. This more grayer side goes down. So we'll put that in there just like it came out. All right, guys, so looking at this some more, now we're going to be basically into it. So every part of the seals that came in this kit, every part that came in this kit, I mentioned in the beginning I wasn't going to change that front, basically oval track seal on the front of this pump. We're going to change it because I need to, which sucks, but I need to take out that top shaft again where the fan hooks up to that main drive pulley that works the actual pump. I want to take that out because I need to get this whole assembly out because we want to investigate and double triple check that there's no more of these parts floating around down in there. So let's do that. We got some casualties, but it is what it is. This is why you do it. You know what I mean? If we never, you know, would have opened this up, like I said before, it just would have been not known, and then that piece could have broken off. You know, we have a hilly terrain up there, and this thing could have fell in somewhere and really blew the whole, you know, thing apart. So, you know, good that we did what we did, guys. All right. I'm going to pause the video here. I'll get the seal pulled back out, and then I'll start taking this top piece, or this whole pump assembly out. It sucks, but we got to do it.